April said, I'm one of Brian's 4 sisters. I'm heartbroken by the loss of my brother, but honored to have this opportunity to reflect on his life with you today. Although we don't share the same father, he treated me no different. My bond with him was deeper and truer than any brother and sister could ever have. His father, Conrado Almodovar, could not be with us here today due to medical reasons, but his brother and his family have graced us with their presence. Thank you for coming. Brian was born on October 13, 1979 at Mililani Children's Medical Center here in Honolulu. I was 6 years old living in the Philippines when I learned that I have a younger brother through a picture sent from his first birthday party. He was the most adorable baby, very cute. Many said he looked like Nino Mulak, if you all know who he is. He was a famous child actor in the Philippines. October 28, 1985, the year I finally got to meet him. I still remember his look, the way he looked at me. Like, who's this person? We lived at what we all know as the Almaca house, together with our late Amang Siloy and our Inang, Loring, and Auntie Ellie's family. At that time, I was almost 11, and Brian was just turned 6. I saw right away how loving, caring, thoughtful, and smart he was. He, along with our cousins, Jeffrey and Edgar, would not fail to check on me, even when I was using the bathroom. They'd wait outside and listen. They made sure to remind me to flush the toilet. I guess they knew that I used the tabo in the Philippines. Manang, are you making shishi? I didn't know what shishi was. Manang, is it duru? I didn't know what this was. I think I just said yes to everything. As soon as I walked out the bathroom, they'd go in and check just to make sure I did flush it. Brian was the youngest out of the 3 boys. Edgar, he was the leader of the pack. Brian and Jeffrey did whatever Edgar asked them to do. And luckily for the 3 of them, if one got in trouble, they all got in trouble. Amang, our late Amang, and Uncle Bobot were the disciplinarians. I've never witnessed them get punished for the things that they did. I heard that they burned a match under a bed and set the mattress on fire. But according to Brian's story, they were told to kneel and face the wall. But you would think they'd be sorry for what they did, but no, they giggled the entire time. Brian always asked me to help him get ready whenever his dad or his grandparents would pick him up. Surely, he must have liked the way I combed and parted his hair. His favorite food was scrambled eggs, drizzled with soy sauce. And as we grew older, I still see him eat it the same way, exactly the same way. If he were to have it his way, he'd have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He would tell on me if I refused to cook it for him. He knew Mom's work number by the heart, 671-6777. He could not hide the phone, he knew. After school, he loved watching cartoons, and that's how he would wake up early in the morning on Saturdays as well. He-Man, She-Ra, G.I. Joe and Transformers were his favorite to watch. He attended Waipahu Elementary School from K to 6. Well, and when he was in the 4th grade, he attended August Aaron School. He received many Eagle Awards. I still remember him coming home with his award and showing it off to me. And I was shocked, like, how did you do that? But he said he got it for good grades and for good behavior. He didn't ask for any help with his homework. He made sure to get it done as fast as he could so he could go back to playing with our cousins and his favorite toy of the week. He had a favorite toy of the week. Every time he came home from his visit with his dad and grandma, he'd always have a new toy, and that was the toy of the week. He loved to read books. I'd see him read the instructions, how to put together his Legos. Year 1988-89, when we lived briefly behind Sumotos, right by the Shell. I, at that time, was attending Waipahu Intermediate. So every day after school, my friends and I waited for him so we could walk home together. Our favorite stop was Waipahu Drugs. He'd ask me, Manang, do you have money? Can we buy icy? I had babysitting money at that time. So we'd buy an icy. We couldn't agree on the flavor. So it was a strawberry flavor and the mixed flavor. As we walk home, we'd take turns sipping on the icy. I remember if we had a bar of chocolate, if we had money to buy a bar of chocolate, we'd share the bar of chocolate, taking turns. And he wanted to hold it last so he could lick his fingers. He would later end up working there when he turned 15 at Waipahu Drugs. And that's where he would meet his future mother-in-law, Tana Romana. I remember him telling me, he's like, yeah, Manang, I met my mother-in-law at Waipahu Drugs, and she told me she had 4 girls, and I want you to marry one of them. Suddenly, he was sent to Long Beach to live with his father's family when he was, I think, about 12. I had no knowledge whatsoever of his unexpected departure. As we got older, he told me stories of the time he lived in California. All he wished was to return here in Hawaii, where he called home. In less than a year, he'd moved back to Kapolei. Shortly after that, he moved to Aumaka House and lived with Auntie Ellie. During that time, I was already living in Las Vegas. He never failed to keep in touch. I know at that time there were no social media, and it would still cost money to call long distance between state to state. But he'd call me when he got a chance. He came to actually celebrate his 21st birthday with us, hoping to win the mega bucks. I remember picking him up, and it was 10 minutes shy of midnight, his birthday. And I was so afraid he'd get in trouble. But he's like, no, Manang, we can't. That's, for everybody who knows him, that's how he was. He took risk like that. He said, well, if you win, I'm going to take the money because you're not 21. Brian was definitely a unique man. He knew what he wanted. He was self-sufficient. But undoubtedly a very smart one. He worked really hard to provide for his family. He loved his wife and children so much. He would often say they were his life. I'll truly miss him. The phone calls that we shared, he'd call me in the middle of the day. Say, hey, Manang. He was a Marites, if you know. At his work, he knew a lot of people he knew I knew as well. Guess what? You know the kind. You know, he passed away, you know. I'm like, you're only gonna tell me who passed away? Are you gonna tell me who had a baby and things like that? But that was just him, out of the blue. And I could hear pounding on the wall, even when he was working. He'd call me. So those are things that I'm gonna truly miss. The last time I spent with him was February 1st was the last time that I saw him. He came to watch me pack. He laughed at all the things I was bringing home. He goes, you're gonna come back again, I said, no, probably won't be for a while. He said, no, you will. Somehow, every time we say goodbye to each other, he'll give me the tightest hug. And at that time, I'd cry. And he go, don't cry. Don't cry. Because you'll see me again. Somehow that day, I was already seated in the car, but I got out of the car and gave him another hug. Didn't think that would be the last time. I didn't look at my rearview mirror to see if he was still waving or not. But that fateful day, I heard from him. He called me. He said his last word, Manang, I love you so much, and you know that. You were my partner, Manang. You knew me and I knew you. We were in this together. I said to him, please, whatever you're thinking, I love you so much. So I know you do. I know you do. If he was here today, he'd be so happy to see all his many faces. I wish he knew how much he was loved. I wish he knew how much he was loved. No one could feel that void that he felt. But I know your dad is really proud of you and he's gonna be watching over us. He'll always be with us in spirit. I love you. Brian, I'll see you soon. Visit me in my dreams, even in my dreams. He'll tell me, he does not say a word, but to my children, his last words to Michaela when we were here for a visit was, take care of you, Mom. I love you, okay? Take care of you, Mom. He visited Ali in her dreams. I love you. Don't cry. Take care of your mom. I'll miss that about him. I won't get any more random phone calls. But he will always live in my heart. Forever. Forever.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Donald Adina. I would have to say Brian was my best friend. He was actually more of a brother to me than a friend. First and foremost, I want to thank Adela and his kids, his 4 kids, for loving him and for inspiring him to just, be himself, be a good dad. Sorry, I'm gonna make my wife read my letter to him.
Adela, Athena, Bella, Bijan, Arias, thank you for being a strength and motivation for Brian. Also, thank you to Auntie Esther for giving life to a wonderful man whom I became very close with. Unfortunately, I did not have the honor of meeting his biological father. When we were early teens, Brian slept in my room when he felt alone. He would lie on the ground and stay up nearly all night. Sometimes he would play video games on my PlayStation. We spent a lot of nights fishing. That was one of their favorite pastime things. Or it was the excuse to go drinking. We played basketball all night at the Kapolei Rec Center. We used to pick on him because he was supposed to be hardcore. So we would pass him the ball and tell him to shoot. When he would miss, we would make him feel real shitty by telling him, you should have passed it. It was just our way of showing him that we loved him and that we are keeping him grounded. He left the island and lived with his father's family. He told me that, or he called me and told me he was going to be so bad that they would send him back to Oahu. And guess what? He came back. He learned how to drive stick in my parents' cars. And that's right, he drove all of the cars. The first time I met Brian, Donald came to pick me up in his mom's Honda Civic. And we drove downtown. And Brian, being Brian, stuck his bare ass out the window and mooned the ladies working the streets. I remember telling Donald, like, something wrong with your friend? No, that's just Brian. I wanted him to be my best man at my wedding, but my brother beat him to the punch. The night before our wedding, Brian and Donald stayed up all night, hanging up signs for our wedding. He also came to pick us up at Kahala Mandarin the next day. And he was driving the red Toyota.
My dad's Toyota pickup truck.
And at that time, the truck didn't have any muffler. So I told Brian, make sure you tell us when you're coming. He's like, okay. He never need to tell us. It was so loud, it echoed throughout the hotel. Like, it was setting off alarms and everything.
We knew he was there. We could hear him.
But Brian, he was a man's man. When he senses just a bit of vulnerability, he would say, weak? Brian's thoughts were, bro, don't get mad, get even. And like Eva mentioned, he was a woman's man. He had a lot of love to give, and the ladies adored him. I remember meeting so many girls I couldn't keep up. I remember one night he came over the house and brought a girl, and I ended up calling her by a name from a previous encounter. Since then, I stopped attempting to know their name. I was able to work with Brian at Mililani restaurant, along with Uncle Henry and Auntie Alice, and we had a blast. I also worked with him at Rantec for 3 months, and I believe he is a really strong man. He would also babysit our kids. You know, before Brian was a dad, he was a dad to many of his nieces and nephews. He was always there to tell him stories so that way they would learn from his mistakes. Little did he know it wasn't gonna work anyway. But it was always entertaining listening to his stories. We would celebrate his birthday at my mom's house and he was so happy. But to Brian, thank you for the effects that you made on my life. When we got older, he would visit Rhiannon and I, Ashley and Austin at my mom and dad's house in Kapolei. And on nights he couldn't sleep, he would tell us that he has insomnia. Rhiannon and I knew he had just felt alone, or maybe even brokenhearted by the girls he was dating. But I'm so thankful. Thankful for his beautiful wife, Adela. Thankful for his 4 kids. And he always wanted you guys to be better than him. And he did an amazing job with you folks. I'm so proud of you, Brian. I'm proud of them and Adela. He would always show everybody how he could bend bottle caps.
Yeah, one talent that I recall with Brian that I always admired when we drank beer was he could bend the Heineken bottle cap backwards. And I always wondered how he did that with his bare hands. I try it till today and I can't do it. Just one of his many talents that he had. And to me, Brian has always been just a brother to me. He's been like my little brother. My brother and I are we're a year apart, but we're like about the same age. There's 12 days in the year, we're the same age. So my brother never did listen to me. Brian to me was like our younger brother who always listened to us. Whatever we told him, he did. And he was such an amazing person, you guys. I'm gonna miss him forever. He left my heart brokenhearted. He left me empty. I feel like I'm broken. I'm still trying to gather myself. That's why I can't do the speech. I'm so sorry, you guys. I wish I would say more. From the bottom of my heart, I love him. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of my life. And I will never be the same. My life will never be the same. I've just witnessed an incident today, or maybe even yesterday. All my friends were together, and I noticed how different we are now. We're no longer the same. And I will miss him forever. And he will live in my heart forever. And I will cherish you guys forever. You guys will always be my family. And I refuse to lose you guys. Thank you everybody for joining us. I appreciate you all the things that you've done for Brian, just for being there, just the happy times that he shared with you guys, maybe even some sad times where he needed you guys' guidance. Thank you everybody, I appreciate you. And to all my friends, my longtime friends, Couple A, he'll always be hardcore, Brian, Cap City boy. I love you, Brian.
You know, like you said, it's kind of weird for us to hear, oh, this is his best friend, Donald and Jojo, best friend. Because for years, he's always, it's my brother Donald and my brother Jojo.
Yeah, it just confused the shit out of people. Because then we would be friends, but we're brothers, so it was confusing. Thank you so much, you guys. Appreciate it. Della, kids, love you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Athena, the eldest daughter of our mom and dad. Mom and dad met in 1992 at Waipahu Intermediate School. They were the same age. Dad claims to have known our mom back when they were in 4th grade attending August Aarons Elementary School in Waipahu, but I think he was exaggerating. When they were in intermediate, I remember our dad telling us that he knew of our mom and became fond of her. It wasn't until their sophomore year in high school, though, that they confessed that they liked each other back in the 7th grade. Dad was a playboy. He had no problem with getting girls' attention. He had a lot of admirers and dated many girls. At that time, their sophomore year, both mom and dad were already in a relationship. This was their time to catch up as classmates. They both had held class together and sat next to each other. Every time dad would enter the classroom, he quickly dragged mom's desk and put their desks side by side. Dad relied on mom a lot to take notes so that he wouldn't have to, and he made like he wasn't smart, but knowing our dad, he was a very smart student. It was that time that he shared to my mom why he disappeared back when they were in the 8th grade. When the first semester ended of their sophomore year, mom and dad no longer were in the same class together, and he began to stop going to school here and there. I remember him telling us, she no stay in my class anymore, for what go school? Daddy went back and forth attending Waipahu High School and Campbell High School to be with Uncle Donald and Uncle Jojo. When attending Waipahu High School, he skipped a lot of classes, didn't turn in much work or homework, but when it came to tests, for some reason, Daddy scored well enough to pass his classes. One of his teachers asked him, Amrovar, you don't do work or turn in homework. How are you passing my test? Dad replied, too easy your work. Daddy got into trouble a lot at school. He used to set off fireworks in the bathroom, stole his teacher's wallet, called out a substitute teacher for being drunk, got into fights, and even flattened the tires on one of his teacher's vehicles. Yep, Daddy was troubled. He would mostly attend his shop classes and electronic classes. He eventually finished high school and got a GED. He always told us that school was too easy for him. On graduation night, he had the opportunity to walk with his class but opted out, and instead laid his classmates, one of them being our mom, who eventually became the love of his life. Mom and dad kept in touch with each other and would always ask each other, so what, you get boyfriend or girlfriend? It was never the right timing for them back then, but they eventually were not dating anyone at the same time. And when Daddy had his opportunity, quickly jumped at the chance and asked Mom, be my girl. That was then the beginning of their love story. Daddy worked many jobs in his early teens. He worked as many as 3 jobs at once just to make rent, have food to eat, and a car to drive. He delivered newspapers, he worked as an attendant at Shell gas station in Naea, and also worked at a bakery. He wasn't able to survive at the bakery because he was allergic to one of the extracts and would often break out in hives. He later worked at Waipahu Drugs where he met our grandma, Romana. Our dad often sought comfort in talking to what he addressed her at the time as Nana Romana, and she would often advise and guide him to keep on being a good boy, do good in life, and be good to people. One day, while Daddy cried and told her one of his life stories, he asked her, "Can you adopt me please, Nana?" After working at Waipahu Drugs, he then worked at Mililani restaurant with his uncle, auntie, cousins, and friends for about 5 years. It was about this time that Dad and Mom were together. After working at Mililani restaurant, Dad moved on to construction and worked for Ramtech because, you see, they were expecting another person to join their clan, me. Then another year later came my sister Bella. Mommy and Daddy decided that it was best for Mom to stay home and take care of both my sister and I, and Dad found himself working 2 jobs again just so he could provide for his growing family. While working at Ramtech during the day, he worked for the postal office at the airport in the evenings on certain days of the week. After a year and a few months passed, an opportunity was presented for him to become an apprentice with the Tapers Union. It then became his career for 20 years. He worked with a few different companies along the years, made journeyman, then foreman, and also became one of the board members for the Tapers Union. When we moved to Mililani, he became a board member, vice president of our complex. I can say that Dad was truly a jack of all trades. He learned how to do anything and everything thanks to YouTube University. Dad lived in many places. He lived in Waipahu, Kapolei, California, Makakilo, and Mililani. Being together with Mom, he promised to take care of Mommy just as long as she took care of him and his kids. At first, Dad wanted 11 kids, and Mom wanted 7. But I am so glad they only decided to have 3 more after me. Life with Dad was happy, fun, and memorable, though it was not all fun and games. While living in Makakilo, it was one of the hardest times for us. When BJ was born, we didn't see Dad as often. He worked his regular hours, then would work either overtime or side jobs right after his regular hours. He would come home so tired that he wouldn't even make it to the bedroom and would just sleep on the floor, in the living room, or even in the hallway to the bathroom. One afternoon, Mom remembered him coming home and telling her that he felt weird, like he didn't feel himself. All Dad asked of Mom was to be held. She held him until he was ready to get up. At that time, he described his feeling to be lonely and empty. He often thought about his upbringing and wished so many times that he didn't suffer the way that he did, and wished that he didn't have to work so hard. He wished that he had the help and gone to college. If you met my dad in his younger years, he was the type of person that would always want to prove something. Daddy wasn't the most pleasant person if he got him angry. As his child, we saw firsthand the destruction he could cause if we didn't do things the way he wanted us to do things. When we moved to Mililani, he was especially harsh when we were helping him to fix our home. He was very frustrated at times, and we got a lot of backlash from him. When he would calm down, he would apologize and tell us that this wasn't him and he's just frustrated. After 2 years in Mililani, Daddy took a break in our renovation of our home. He was no longer motivated to work as the years passed. His health also took a toll on him. Not only did he have anger issues, PTSD, anxiety, and depressive moments, he was also battling high blood pressure. He was convinced that he had white coat syndrome, but that's all psychological. Dad told us many times that if he ever had a heart attack, to please do not resuscitate. He always told us to just let me go, and that he knows what it feels like to suffer. He didn't want that for us. As sad and heartbroken as we are of how he felt, how he left this earth, we have come to terms that he is in a better place. A place where he knows no pain, no suffering, no sadness or emptiness. Thank you.
Hi, I'm his second eldest daughter, Bella, and as you can see, he's had such a big impact on everyone's lives that he met. I miss being able to hear him snore at night. No matter how loud it got, it was a nice reminder that he was here with us. Even if sometimes I would catch him downstairs asleep in his pod rocker, and or sometimes when I would go into his room to check on him, he's asleep with his phone in his hand, the light's still on because that's how long he's been on it. I'm a little sad that I can't remember much over the years, but I do remember all of the times that he spent trying to make the most for his kids, his wife especially. Oh my gosh. He was not afraid to show public affection, especially in front of us. It just goes to show how much he loved Mom and how happy that she made him, no matter how hard times got.
Hi, I'm Brian's first son, his junior. My dad was a very loving, caring, handsome, really smart. Like, some of the things that he showed on what he does with his money, I couldn't comprehend it. One of my favorite memories with Dad was when I was helping him build the shed in our backyard. I think I was holding like something so he could put it together. And he said, "All right, move left." I move right. I said left, right again. Your other left keeps moving right. You're just like your mom. Dyslexic. As he moves and grabs you by my shoulders and moves me all the way to the right, to the left. See, he still don't know my left and right. But then he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "But it's good. You'll be good like your mom." I have a lot of stories that I could share, but right now I can't think of any. I'll come back to it and see if I remember anything.
As the oldest, I firsthand got to see my parents grow up as parents. So if you were to ask my dad about when I was 16, he would call those my rebellious years. It was during this time, I was in high school, I was a sophomore and a junior. We would argue a lot. Just because, like, I don't know, I would do something and he'd overreact because I was just finding myself, and I think deep down he couldn't really grasp at the fact that I was growing up. He didn't want to see me grow up just yet. So yeah, we would argue a lot, but I think it made him proud. He hid it really well, but I think he knew that because I would be able to stand up to somebody twice my size, no fear in my eyes whatsoever, he knew that I'd be able to take care of myself no matter where I went. He was proud that I could do all the things I could do. I am the smallest of my siblings, yet somehow they all fear me. This being said, I knew he was also really proud of my accomplishments in school, because he would always tell me, "You're doing everything I never got the chance to. I'm very proud of you."
Hi, I'm the youngest of the four. I'm Arias, and I really miss Dad. I'm pretty sure we all really love him.
One of my favorite memories of Dad was... I just want to say, like, I loved how my dad was able to do what I just did. Even no matter how sad the moment is or the environment is around him, he would always make everyone laugh. That was one of my favorite things about him. I'm sorry, my bad. One day, me and my dad found each other home alone, because everyone else was out doing stuff. It was raining, and we would just dream about a bunch of stuff. He talked about how when we get older, he wants all his kids to buy a big house, and we all live in the same house. I said Athena might go crazy, but okay. He was able to, the difference between when he and I said our dreams, he had built entire plans on how we would get there, just to prove just how smart he was. On top of being my dad and being my father, you really were my first best friend, Dad. I will love you forever and always.
baby girl, don't you cry. Daddy's here beside you to hold you close tonight. You're as sweet as a flower that blooms by day and hangs dry the fragrance.
Ooh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly.